back to my channel. This is Alan English from Off Grid Al. I wanted to talk to you about my land search and how I ended up retiring early, and this all happened in 2021. So, initially, of course, during COVID, we all had a rough time, and I was working for a company that required me to work through the COVID process, and I mean, they weren't making much money. My position required me, based off the income they made, to get a piece of that, so I wasn't making much money, and it was frustrating for me as well as my employees where I was at. So I started getting real serious about selling my home that I had there in town and planning retirement. So I'd been researching it anyways for a few years and was watching Sean James from My Self Reliance. And he has two channels, and he's been a very big inspiration for me to be where I'm at today. I started researching my affordability of what I could do if I sold my place for X amount of dollars with what I had in retirement. So kind of give you a kind of an idea of that. Initially, my search in 2021, when it got serious, I started looking in Montana for a piece of land between 20 and 40 acres. I was also looking here in the state of Washington as well. I really had my heart set on Montana. Initially, I looked at a couple properties up there. Montana's really had a boom of people buying off grid out there, which obviously is understandable with everything going on in the world nowadays. And their pricing had went up. Our Washington land also has went up, but it wasn't as badly priced as up in Montana. And you can get a better piece of land here for a little less money than in Montana. I had looked at like two properties, like I said. They were very steep. You really couldn't build on them. One of them, somebody took a cat up and dozed an area and made it so you could build on it, but they didn't even doze the driveway up to it. So the land was very unusable, and even the area that was dozed was really not that nice. There was no real view. So for Montana, the stuff that I was finding wasn't my Montana dream. So I started expanding my search. I went and I was searching clear to Michigan, because Michigan, by Michigan Lake, there's lots of huge properties you can buy. Um, but I don't know if they're floodlands, swamplands, or what they are. And it's a long ways to go look at a piece of land that might not, pencil out. So I also looked here locally, but further away, as far up towards the Canadian borders I could, and more of a central of the state, or central upper part of the state. Let's just put it that way. So I ended up finding 40 acres. So I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about how I went about that. First of all, I used LandWatch, I used Zillow, I did a Google search, and I made it so that LandWatch had an account, and I think Zillow did it too. I don't remember it, if I think it was Zillow is how I found this piece of land. But I would every day, a couple times a day, I would always look, because I was really, really serious. And I had put my house up for sale with an agent that I had known for years and trusted. And ended up the first person that came to my place, because I was in town. I was near a really good popular spot, and I had a river view where I was at. So, first person that looked at it actually bought my place. So that worked out really good for me. I got most of what I was asking. I was expecting to get more than what I was asking. That didn't happen, but it still worked out good. And so that started the move. So from there, I ended up going up to a friend's property in Goldendale, Washington, and continuing my search. Now I was searching, you know, in Washington and hoping that I could find something. I had found a 20-acre parcel that it actually had homestead on it that needed some work and stuff like that. It was pretty dialed in piece of land. I think it was like $120,000. And to me, the way it was set up, it would have been worth it. And I was really serious about going and buying it. Um, Called the agent. They called me back, said the person decided to take it off the market and keep it. So that sucked. So that was a real letdown because I hadn't seen anything really nice recently, and but this person just changed their mind. That's fine. So I started looking again, and I was looking in the $60,000 to $130,000 range. Um, my requirements on my search, I think that's the key thing. You got to think about what you want. I wanted buildable land. Sloped was okay, but not too sloped. Um, I wanted some kind of water source on it. I wanted a creek running through it or something. And it needed to be treed, preferably heavily treed. I don't even think I would have bought it if it wasn't heavily treated, if it was raw land. So, in my search, I found a place 20 miles from the Canadian border, at least the main town. And I didn't want to be in town, obviously. But I found a place up in the mountains. They had 40 acres. Somebody just popped it on. It was 95,000 they were asking. And of course, I jumped on it the same day it came up on the listing, so I knew I couldn't talk them down much. So I offered 10 grand less. And we ended up settling for 5 grand less. So I got it for 90,000. What I ended up with, which was exactly what I wanted, I got 40 acres of land. Well, just slightly below 40, 39.89 or something like that. At any rate, it has a creek running through it. It was heavily treed. It was considered timberland. The most important thing, in addition to those two other items that I really had a problem finding with other lands, was that this land was slightly sloped but very buildable. It even has a couple level spots, really. Um, so all of this property that I ended up with was walkable with the creek that's seasonal. The creek actually, usually, at least the last 2 years, has made it clear into September. And then, of course, then you get the freeze and the snow and all that stuff. And then now it's not flowing. But had a very hot summer and it flowed most of the summer. The other cool thing is I found 20 feet above the creek a year round spring. It's not a huge spring, but I get plenty of water from it. And I've been getting drinking water from it that I filter out of it. I got to develop that spring yet. So I lucked out because I'm on a mountain. There's water that's running down it. I ended up with a spring. And my spring actually feeds the creek. Above me, the creek was totally dry. So my spring was actually feeding the creek, and there was actually a little bit of water still in the creek all through the year because of my spring. Um, so that was a plus. The price was about right for me. All I can say is if you're going to search for property, use those searches. Search Google. Um, do your due diligence and keep looking. And don't just buy something from pictures you see on there either, because those lands I looked at in Montana, they took a picture of the part they leveled out, and then they took far pictures of the land. You couldn't really tell that it was very steep, but the land was very steep. You couldn't have done anything with it. You couldn't even walked it. It was just there's just no way. The pictures just don't give you the depth that you need. So make sure you look at anything that you're going to buy. The other thing is check out the seasons. I mean, check the climate for the area that you're buying in. If you're buying somewhere else and you don't know about it and you have a particular kind of climate you want to live in, think about that, is all I can suggest. I wanted 4 seasons. I wanted a little drier weather than where I was at, not as much rain. So where I ended up, it is drier, there's less rain, and I get a full definite 4 seasons. And I wanted a lot of snow in the wintertime. Boy, do I get that. So if you stick around towards the end of this video, you'll see me driving out of here going to town, and you'll see the snow I'm dealing with. So yeah, I wanted raw land. I wanted it in Montana. I didn't get it in Montana. That's fine. It's still very beautiful here in the state of Washington. And where I'm at, I'm not far from Canada. Canada is extremely beautiful, and I hope to go up there and do some fishing someday. Um, I've got a wood strip canoe, cedar wood strip canoe that I need to restore, and that I'll be using later, and I'll restore it and show that on one of my future videos as well. So equipment is a big thing. You got to decide what you want. If you're going to build on your land, what are you gonna want? Are you gonna want a tractor? Are you gonna want a UTV? Are you gonna want an ATV? Are you gonna just use your truck? For me, I wanted to be able to level land. I wanted to be able to farm some of my land. I want to create an orchard. So a tractor was really kind of a no-brainer. So I started out looking at used tractors like Kubota and John Deere and the tractors like that and stuff. And they were well over 20 grand for a used one with a lot of hours on them. Then my neighbor, while I was still in town, he had 10 acres that he wanted to work, and he ended up buying a Bobcat tractor. I didn't even know Bobcat made tractors. So he bought a 25 horse tractor called a CT 2025 Bobcat and came over and did some work with it. And this was back in 2021. He told me he paid under 20 grand for the thing. And I was like, no way, a brand new tractor for under 20 grand. And so I went to the website, and sure enough, you could buy it for right around 20 grand, just under it. And if you were to be a cash buyer, you could buy it for even less. So I had sold my house. So I ended up going and talking to Bobcat and picking one up. Total cost for the tractor besides before tax was $19,200 in 2021. So not too bad for a brand new tractor. And Bobcat's been around a long time. Their industrial equipment has been well known for years and is great stuff. Um, so I bought a Bobcat tractor. Didn't get that till March of 2022. I special ordered a 22 model. They didn't have any 2021 models left, anyways, and I didn't need it because I hadn't actually finished the transaction on my land yet that I put in an offer on. But I knew I was getting the land, so I went ahead and ordered the tractor. Secondly, I ordered a Norwood mill, lumber mill, and bought uh, a log loader, and I think it was 3 or 4 4-foot extensions, as well as I bought an implement for the tractor for Norwood, which is a hydraulic winch, and it'll lift the logs, and it goes on the 3-point on the back. So I bought all that stuff. That came to 18,000. So about 22,000 with taxes on the tractor, 18,000. Um, that was including taxes on the mill. Then I ended up, of course, buying the land for $90,000. Also, I ended up buying a Woodland Mills chipper, a wood chipper. I thought I was going to use it this summer. I hadn't yet. That was a $3,300 purchase there. And the one I bought was one that would do up to 6-inch logs. Besides the chipper, that was 3,300. I do have a 28-foot travel trailer to live in. Um, I recently purchased an 89 24-foot travel trailer that I'm filming out of right now for $2,500. So if you don't have a travel trailer, you can get a used one if that's what you want to live in while you're building. If you get a piece of raw land, you're going to want to live in something. And my 28-foot travel trailer is what I live in, but I bought this one as a spare trailer. It's going to be a guest trailer in another part of my property. I picked up a snowmobile. I picked it up for $2,500. You can pay less. You can get them for as cheap as $800, depending on the condition and what you want. Things I still need to get: pulling logs out of the woods on a hill with that tractor, and I imagine it'd be the same with other tractors too, is going to be tough because I've I think it was a 19-foot log I tried to pull uphill, and then of course it's not a steep uphill. The tires just spun and dug, because even though I can lift it up at the tractor, I can't at the back because I don't have anything to put the log on so that there's no drag. So that means I'm dragging that log through the dirt. Well, I found they can't move some of my logs, and I got to move them up and then come back down to where my property is because I got to move them out. And I got a few of them I cut. Now, most of my logs I've cut up, and I can probably drag them on down, no problem. Um, but anyways, there's a thing called a log arch. It's got wheels on it. You can put that on the back of the log, and that way it's on two wheels at the back. And you can basically pull it with no resistance that way. I think that'll work. So I'm going to look into getting a log arch. That's $2,100 from logrite.com. Well, if you need to put a well in your property, at least the rates here that I found this year in 2022 were $65 to $75 a foot, including the casing down to the rock when they hit that bedrock or whatever you want to call it. That does not include a pump or any of the installation of the pump. Solar well pump, I wouldn't mind getting and using that. So I think RPS solar pumps is what I was looking at. I think you're looking around $3,000 for something like that. And that's including solar panels and some, I don't know what all that includes. I haven't been to the website for a while. I'll leave a link in case you're interested in checking it out. I'll put links to all of the stuff that I'm talking about, even the stuff I purchased, just in case you're interested. Water holding tanks for the spring that I want to develop down below on my property. The spring tank, you're looking at between $50 for a good food grade one that's used, on up to probably $200 for a used one. Or you can go new. You're looking around, depending on the size you want, $350, clear up to $5,000, depending on the material out there. It could be a stainless steel one you get. I would probably just do a used food grade one myself. A whole solar system for the home, for the cabin. I priced one that was already set up with all the electronics, the solar panels, the batteries, the whole works. And the company that I contacted wanted $30,000, which was too much for me. I'm going to try to build my own. I think I can do it for $15,000, including batteries. And we're talking the good batteries, not the lead acid batteries. So that'll be something I want. I want to get a box scraper implement for my tractor so that I can level out my driveway I built. I built a driveway through there and it's a little bit rough. A box scraper will take down the roughness and smooth it out. You could even take gravel and have it dumped, and then you can box scrape that and just make a nice, clean, smooth gravel surface. So I want to get one of those. Those things, I think they're a couple, $2,000 or more, about 2,200, depending on what you get to. For my cabin build, I have wood stoves already. Previous video will have one of my little wood stoves that's going to go in the bedroom of the cabin. I have I have one used one and one small new one. One I picked up off of Amazon was $400, and that was a small one. That will do up to 450, 500 feet square foot. And then I have a used one that I bought that's going to go in the upper cabin, and that thing was used $600-700, something like that. Really nice stove that I bought. I'd like a wood cooking range, which if I get that, then I may not need to put a wood stove into. That'd be one less item, and then that'd be used for cooking as well as heating. So up in Canada, they make one by Salamander Stoves called the Little Range. That's probably about $2,600 US. It's 2,400 pounds Canadian. I don't like that one as much as the other two. There's one called Regina. It's a wood burning cook stove. They had one that's $4,000. That was really nice. It's a little bit high priced. And then even my absolute favorite one is made by Essie, I think they're called. ESSE is how it's spelled. They have one they call the Iron Heart. It's a really nice looking wood stove. Looks very well built. Problem is, it's over 8,000 US, and I'm not willing to spend $8,000 for a wood cooking stove. And so, yeah, beautiful stove if you want to see it, but way too rich for my blood. Um, Another necessity in the cabin would be a solar refrigerator and potentially a solar chest freezer. You're looking chest freezer. I think it's they're $800 to $1,600 depending on what you want. Solar refrigerator being between 1,000 and 2,400. When all is said and done with my off-grid life, my build, I don't want to be in it over $200,000 US. Um, I think if you're thrifty and you go bare bones, you can get it done for a lot less. Um, Maybe find a used tractor for under 10 or 11,000. Buy more used stuff. Um, I figured, if I got 20, 25 years, I want my stuff to last that whole time. I don't have to go searching for a replacement later and be in that much, you know, when all is said and done. So, less property, you can find a 5 or 10 acre parcel, save some money there. Um, I wanted to be on a lot of property. I wanted to have a lot of property, feel like I'm totally in the woods all the time. And that's how I've got it. I got a park like feeling up in my upper property. For me, I actually lucked out. I got 3 roads running through my property, and I don't mind that. At first, it bothered me, but don't let that bother you. I mean, look at the property. If the property looks nice, think about it. If you got 40 acres and you got 3 roads running through it, and if they're spaced right, like mine, I have one down at the bottom of my property, got one just about the middle of my property, and one almost all the way at the top of my property. And yeah, I mean, people can go through these gravel roads through my property. I don't have a problem with that. But the really nice thing is I have access to all those areas. It helped answer some questions and it gives you something to think about if you're deciding to go off grid and if you're deciding to retire early. Uh, my retirement age was 58. I'm 59 now. Um, I do get dinged when I pull money out of my retirement. Even though I get dinged pulling money out of my retirement money, I'm trying to be smart about it. But the economy's tanking too, so it keeps bouncing up and down and stuff. And I just hope that this has been informational for you. If you have any questions, just post them down below. I'll be sure to get back to you and answer within a day or so. I try to check the stuff and keep up on it, and I try to answer everybody if they have a question. So I do appreciate you following me along. I hope you'll continue to follow along. I'm going to take a break from doing anything for the next couple of months because I'm snowed in. There's no possible way for me to do anything with the amount of snow that we have for at least a couple of months just because of the snow. Next year should be different. I should be a little more prepared for it and still be able to be there doing stuff. But right now I have no good area to work on projects in, and I need to have a shelter up there on my deck that I'm building that stuff on. So let's look at February, end of February, beginning of March. I should be back into doing stuff. I should be able to maybe clear the snow away enough that I can actually work on stuff. And the shed will be the first thing I'll finish, and then hopefully sometime in March the land I can start working it for the cabin build, because what I'd like to do is start doing my digging. I'll be using the tractor as much as I can, but I'll also be using a pick and axe and a shovel. So it's going to be a lot of hard work. I don't know what kind of boulders I'm going to run into, or if I'm going to have to work around some of those and integrate them into the cabin build. But if I end up with like a huge boulder the size of my trailer or whatever, I may just build around that, make that part of the inside of the and create a little waterfall down in there or something. I don't know. I'll get creative, make something really cool. Figure beginning of March, I'll be back to filming again. I'll probably have something, at least another film by the end of February, I hope. And if you want to follow along, and the best way to get notified when I put out my next video is to the right of your screen there. There's a little logo at the bottom corner. If you just click on that, that'll set you up to get notified on my next video. And thank you again for following me. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. Thank you again. Take care.